different experiences. I'm going to keep it going. After that, we conveniently pop back to our hotel, change into our day clothes, and we do a series of, we have a great brunch, which is downtown. We talk a lot about outdoor dining and experiencing streets that have lots of activity. We went to an area of town where there were renovated warehouses that had working studios. We could actually go in and see local artists preparing their craft, and we could spend some of our money. After that, after we had lunch, one of the big things we came to downtown Johnson City to experience was the ETSU Creative Retirement Center. And what that's all about is, we're not retired, our minds are still going. You've all heard about creative retirement, but we spoke a lot about some specific things that can be done with this. And what we're going to do this afternoon is the wife is doing a gourmet cooking class, the husband is learning about folk music and bluegrass music. He's going to learn how to make a guitar or play a guitar. There's going to be a creative writing class. After that, we're going to stroll back to our hotel, prep for dinner. We're going to go up to the fabulous rooftop bar and have a plum martini on top of the hotel. We're going to go down to the waterfront for dinner, where we're going to experience fabulous bootlegger-themed 1920s restaurant. Again, something that's like the Prohibition era, something that's themed for Eastern Tennessee that would be really fun and active. And we're going to, what?
Meet the family.
We're going to meet the family and have a really fun, unique Johnson City experience at this restaurant. We talked about the beauty of seeing the reopened streams at night, and possibly something like the Cauldrons of Fire that's in Providence, that kind of thing. And then afterwards, we stroll back through the New Greenway and Riverway back to the hotel through sometimes the sculpture garden would be really interesting. And quickly, some of the top values is local and unique. What is unique to local to Johnson City? High quality. And why don't y'all add a couple? The other one that I thought was cool, the antithesis of Walmart downtown.
Say that again?
The antithesis of Walmart or big box.
Yeah.
Is there anything?
We talked about mentoring where people are just, semi-retired so they can help out some of the young professionals in town and that kind of thing.
That's it.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yay. All right, our last group.
We are a married couple, 40 to 50 years old with no kids. We sort of did a weekday plan and a weekend plan. So first thing you do when you get up, we live downtown, and we're going to head straight to the gym for a little while. I think it's funny that in 15 years, all of us are going to be working out every day. Then we hop on our bikes and ride to work. We stop for breakfast on the way. We have our bikes hooked up with a little thing to hold a cup of coffee. We stop to get coffee and a bagel on our way into work. Then we work downtown from 8 to 12. Professional jobs, call center, retail, clerical, medical, creative. We've got to get jobs downtown. We go to lunch around 12. We go to a locally owned restaurant. We run a few errands, go to the post office, pick up our dry cleaning, and stop by a florist. And then afterwards, from 1 to 5, we might go back to work, but our boss might also give us the afternoon off because we're going to volunteer at the new homeless shelter that just opened up by the mall. Station, which is near the Carnegie Hotel. We pick up our friends that are coming to spend the weekend in Johnson City, and then we go to an outdoor concert. So that's our weekday, probably a Friday. On the weekend, we sleep in, we head downtown, go have breakfast at a locally owned place, stop at the farmer's market. Then we go to the bike rental place and get a bike and do a little bike ride on the Tweetsy, maybe do lunch with Elizabeth. Shopping from 2 to 5. Cafes, art galleries, music, coffee shops, foodie things, maybe a quick skate into the downtown year-round ice rink. At 5 o'clock, we go to the Martini Bar or Microbrew. 6:30, dinner at a locally owned restaurant, maybe something ethnic. 8 o'clock, we go to the theater. We had up for an evening of dancing. Around 3 o'clock, we head home, and oddly enough, as we're walking back to our condo, all the streets are being swept by the bar owners, picking up all the cigarettes. That's the last thing we see before we go to bed.
That is amazing. It's amazing for lots of reasons. It's amazing because there was so much the same, but there were also really unique stories that everyone told. It was amazing that you all did such a good job of inhabiting the bodies and minds of the demographic I asked you to. And that's sometimes that can get you out of your own mind and into another space. It's amazing because I was listening to it, I believed it would happen. And I think that that's powerful. Sometimes, you know, we can think to ourselves, wouldn't it be nice if, and we talk about it with a couple of our friends, but you guys just did this, wouldn't it be nice when this happens in Johnson City? And by the time you guys were done, I was like, oh, in 10 years when I come back, this is what's going to be happening. I knew it. So there's a lot to be said for visioning something together and for actually spending this kind of time in a room together, hearing each other say it, hearing each other see so much that the other people are seeing too at the same time. So I hope that gives you a really strong sense of hope and also maybe momentum. I want to focus a little bit on these criteria and just have you guys work with me for a second, because as everyone was talking, I did see a lot of overlap, and what I want to make sure that we do, I mean, ultimately, I will want to look through this again at the end and make sure, but let's just see on the core values here that I've started to tag, that I really feel like almost everybody identified. And there's something really powerful in this vision. I know that there's something generic sounding in this, but when you take it all together, it's a roadmap. And it's saying that the design of what you do down here is very distinct. You're asking for density. You know, you're asking for safety, but you're asking for a lot of in-person interaction. You were talking about seeing a lot of people all the time. Things were busy, things were happening. There's a lot of different options. Celebrating our history and culture. I mean, in every single one, there was an element to something that we're celebrating about this place. Multi-generational diversity, all this close proximity stuff. I also heard that there's a flow. Every day there was a flow, and it was easy, and it was not some complicated thing getting around in cars a lot of different times. I called out that word beauty because you guys made beauty up here, and I also think I heard underneath of everything you said an aesthetic desire for the flow, for you to want to move through those spaces. It should be beautiful. What are we missing?
How about something relating to supporting and promoting business opportunity and entrepreneurship?
Entrepreneurship. So development of a lot and ideally smaller businesses, or does that matter?
It's great to have all the parks. It's great to have all the parks and whatever, but something's got to support, pay for all of
Yep.
it to go on.
Yep. Okay. So I want to.
Yeah, the same thing is like companies, try to get companies to come in here to support this and to bring in employment so that we have people who want to live here close by who will be employed.
And then somebody else said it doesn't necessarily have to be small.
But it's interesting, there was only one family that worked. This was all recreational, very little.
Yeah, you assume that, I think, did a lot of people think about it as a weekend day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about having a lot of businesses, retail spaces, service businesses. Somebody like that will also talk about having a business incubator.
A business incubator.
Are all the residential developments we talked about going to be so high-end that the people who work in the restaurants and the cafes and the museums behind the desk, behind the counters, do they have to live 15, 20 miles away?
Yeah, that's my point too. We talk a lot about diversity and cultural diversity, but we've made this a pretty sophisticated place that reflects the values of the people in this room, not necessarily the whole of Johnson City. And I think in order for it to have a true vitality, you know, it's interesting that we're not a very diverse group here. I mean, we had some age diversity, but certainly there's a bigger representation, and I would think 10 years from now there will be even more. And that somehow has to be at the forefront.
Do you think, however, that what you all have thought about for these days would exclude? Is there an exclusiveness to these days?
I think in some ways it is.
Well, we did include on our little map, not only condos, but also apartments, keeping in mind that it would not all be high ends.
Right.
That young professionals would have a place to live.
Yeah.
Reasonable amount.
Yeah.
And we included socioeconomic diversity. And I've heard a lot of people talk about free events and paid events. So I think that is a core value in creating diversity.
Yep. Okay, so socioeconomic. So anybody else want to add to that? You know, really, how is this? Yeah.
This group, for example, have affordable, family-oriented. Meant that you're going to have a wide venue for the people coming to downtown, not just high-end, but museums, hands-on museums, various other entities that provide free services.
But you know, to be able to provide those free services, you have to have a community that affords those free services. The museum depends on only 33% of its income is earned. So the rest of the community has to provide those free services. So we do have to have some sustainable businesses that buy into downtown to help support those free activities. And that really is a challenge for us. We've got the passion for those, obviously, as we sit in this room. It's the desire and attraction that we have to grip onto that raises the funds to make those things available.
I think the more people you have of various economic income groups who can work and live downtown, the more you're going to have generation by those people to support their business.
There are a lot of things. I've seen a theme of a lot of green, a lot of water, a lot of open, a lot of gathering opportunities, a lot of outdoor activities, assuming that we're all going to continue to think about health. And to me, those appeal to broadly the socioeconomic. I think it's also unique to the Tri-Cities. This doesn't exist in our marketplace right now. And I think that gathering of a community, not just business, but a people community is really good. Because none of those things, those public spaces, are necessarily economic places.
I don't sense there, just observation, that there was any mutual exclusiveness between doing outdoor integration with nature and vibrant business community. In fact, what I've sensed in most of these is that they were all mixed together. What else are you seeing? I'm sorry, I can't.
Well, and when I look for shared values across that strata, when we talk about socioeconomic, I like what the last group said about civic pride or pride. The bar owners are taking care of the streets in front of their shops, and I think that that's something that transcends multi-generational, socioeconomic. So I think that an important core value really is being prideful of our area and our space. I don't know if you necessarily call it civic pride, but
it's sort of, it is. Well, it's civic pride, it's community pride, it's a pride of place, location, aesthetics. It's an honoring. You're essentially honoring your community by having it uphold a certain beauty and integrity in a way. Yeah. If that's a nice way to put it on. Yeah. What else, guys?
Something that I found interesting is that in everyone's presentation, it feels like it's a city that you can grow in. You can be a young professional, open to everyone. It's really, I think it's creating a community that's sustainable over a long period of time.
On the sustainability note, there needs to be an element of a core area that is sustainable, providing goods and services to people living in that area. You can't provide goods and services for people living in that smallest area. You know, you can't build that concentrically out and provide people on the periphery of that area. So you have to start somewhere and provide everything that this city needs downtown for someone living downtown. You know, and it's very important.
Right, right. I think we talked about close proximity of services, density, you know, we're
You
getting...
have close proximity, but it can be sprawl, not, you know, you can say, well, there's a grocery store over here, and, you know, you can go, you know, get coffee over here. But, you know, for the first people building, you know, living in this community full time,
Yeah.
they want their coffee next to their grocery store. They want to be able to buy a pack of cigarettes, a pack of gum,
Right.
you know, and some paper to print their, you know, work on.
So do we need to define density and proximity a little bit more? I mean, I'm assuming, because I live in a big city, that means that it's all walkable. Is that what you mean?
Well, it's an initial, you know, yeah, there's something to build off of.
Yeah.
Where you can say, well, you know, let's get this big park. What's the point of having parks around the grocery store, you know, for people
Yeah.
who live by the park?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, somebody else had their arm up back there.
I'd like to think of what this process is discussing is positioning. I think we're positioning the downtown as we have been for, let's just say, a generation, the last 20 years, and I think we must do it in half-life. It must be in the next 10 years or 5 years. I think the other piece that I see is because of our proximity to the interstate, I think we're making the 21st century welcome center. Not that we need a welcome center right off the interstate, as some places are touting within the region or the welcome center up at Sam's Gap. I think we're positioning ourselves to be welcome to the visitor, but most importantly to the community and to the region. And therefore, we must be that magnet. And as was said 20 years ago, truly the heart, not at home just here, but of the downtown, but of the community. And the one thing that we might have said, and I've tried to listen attentively, I didn't hear us talk about the library. The library in this role in this past year, 3 to 10 to 15 years, the role of the library in the next 10 to 15 years with our friends at the museum, who knows what it can be, but to me it's positioning for the future to be the ultimate welcome center so that anyone would want to come here regardless of your socioeconomic, race, color, creed, and all those other barriers that keep us from being respected.
The Johnsons visited the library as part of their day.
I said learning, arts, and culture, you know, there's sort of an access to all question. Because I heard a lot of learning. I heard some museums, I heard some of that. So there's this active engagement with outside world for sure, but in a learning paradigm.
I'm not quite sure how to ask this or how to mention this, but, you know, we've talked about socioeconomic diversity, and the one thing that nobody's really talked about, we did a little bit, was talking about our homeless population, and, you know, everybody wants the John Sevier to be a hotel and with a spa and just be this great place. You know, that's Section 8 housing right now. So there's got to be, as a part of this plan, what you do. If it's truly socioeconomic diversity, that means all of it. So there's got to be a plan for what you do with the lowest part of the socioeconomic food chain. And I'm not quite sure where all that fits in, but it's got to.
Well, right now it feels like there isn't a lot of diversity downtown. That's just my outside perspective, is that it's not diverse. It's actually slanted almost entirely in one direction.
Which direction do you think that is?
Primarily, I mean, to have the Sevier be here, is it how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And so many of the services here be focused down here. What it does is that tends to dominate more than the rest. And, you know.
Another piece that we all assume that wasn't really acknowledged is there are 3 major churches that serve as anchors for downtown. And they are definitely connected and have a sensitivity towards that social
And holding a container
consciousness.
So yeah, just less, yeah. Yeah.
That's an observation I was going to make. I don't see those churches represented here.
They were invited.
Dr. Fine is
We are members of those churches, so they are here.
Is it not too.
Yeah, I know we invited quite a few, yeah. Yes, Mike?
Whereas Marcy was saying a lack of diversity, if you take a look at the surrounding neighborhoods, you actually have diverse neighborhoods directly adjacent to the downtown.
Yeah.
If you make the downtown walkable, if you have the services downtown, I'm also sure they have an urban mass directly around the downtown and could support businesses and activities. If it's walkable.
Yeah. No, I'm amazed at how close there's so many neighborhoods downtown. I mean, yeah, it's really close. It's really close. Can we go for a second to, I don't mean to go take us to negative space, but what would be a real no-go? What could happen here that would really violate the terms of these values that we laid out here? I call them, what should I call them? I'm calling them, yeah, just, they would really be violations of this code.
Through traffic, it goes on, and we can't get around from the neighborhood to the town center.
So arterial kind of uses, arterial traffic.
Auto-centric design.
But there's so much of it that doesn't have anything to do with Johnson City. It goes zooming right on through.
Yeah, using it as an arterial.
No Walmarts.
I heard that before, and I'm sensing that that's consensus in the group.
What was it? Big box stores.
No big box stores.
That's for Nordstrom. If we're saying no big box stores, I mean, are you referring to, I mean, is that Walmart element? Or is it that high-end retail shop that's going to draw people to downtown to spend money, that's going to help the community be self-sustaining?
So shopping is good, but something that's big and low end.
Oh, I'm not low end.
Even really what end doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these guys have a footprint of at least 2 city blocks, right? I mean, we're not, so it's really different than the diverse economic, vibrant business.
Behind the big box because it's small, I think you can't just give it away. One of my favorite towns in the world is Connecticut. It's one of the wealthiest parts of the United States. They don't allow chain stores in their downtown unless the chain store conforms to their requirements. There are signage requirements, square footage requirements. I'm not specifically opposed to a big box store, but you know what, they fit in. They make concessions for us. We don't make concessions for them. They're going to make money off downtown. So they need to not be too big. The outside of the store needs to meet guidelines that make it fit in with the surrounding area. We don't want somebody coming in building a big box and all playing with it.
I think to support the diversity and the socioeconomic things that you're looking for and you're talking about, you're going to have to bring those services to the area. You're going to have those retail services, high and low end. You're going to have to bring those economic things that people need to support the retail because Walmart and big boxes provide those things that people are looking for and need in their daily lives. And if we're going to get to sustainability and green and get away from the automobile and work with bikes and pedestrians, we're going to need to bring those retail things that those other shops provide.
There is, though, a big difference between a, store that is, essentially maybe half the size of the Children's Museum that's got groceries and stuff like that, and Walmart. I mean, Walmart is, whatever you talk, it's huge, and it's often not street friendly. And you could say, okay, Walmart, you've got to have all your fronts be all open with displays and cafes and, right? That would be a way to integrate it. It's a better option, but they're typically designed for maximizing.
And they're designed for cars. They're designed that you buy large quantities that you can't just carry home. You've got to put in a car and drive somewhere.
Right.
If you're walking everywhere, there's no way to get a month's worth of groceries and plug it all back up.
You can't carry Walmart groceries back home anyway. Come on. Yeah.
One of the reasons people go to Walmart is because most of them cheaper.
Right,
Kmart stopped selling groceries because they couldn't compete with Walmart.
right, right.
If you want affordable food, I don't know. Given the economies of scale that Walmart drove these other smaller places out of business because they can have low prices. And so they like everything associated with that. It's a reality. How do you get, and it's relatively, how do you get affordable food in small spaces? How do you keep that from being boutique stores that appeal only to the upper middle and upper class?
And also, they have, the Walmart really attracts from a much larger area. So therefore, you need the huge parking lots because people are coming many miles, 20 miles or more.
But you all are not Walmart. I mean, you're Johnson City. So, yeah, you can attract a lot of people. But what I just want to call out to you guys just designed something incredibly unique here. And I don't see any space for Walmart. Are we in agreement about that?
Yes.
Okay. You're not.
Well, I don't think that one meeting or so permanent is a matter of are you developing outside of your area that you should be developing? Are you redeveloping? Are you infill developing? There's room for Walmart. So you can put Walmart in General Mills building. Under the right. I don't know about that. Using what you already have and developing that, and not trying to tie that with it. We want this business to go on.
And I don't want us to get off track because we could probably spend the next half an hour on that. So I just want to make sure that I've sort of captured, because we've talked a little bit about that the downtown area really be more seen as a much larger contiguous space than simply just that tight downtown. And so perhaps there is room for something creatively designed and integrated in the community that could be done in the outlying area. So I'll put this as a caveat, I'll link these together, I guess, for the moment. We are almost done, you all, so I can't take up too much more time. I want to make sure that nothing that still needs to be said, there's room for before I want you to do a quick reflection exercise. So anything else that you feel like we might have missed? I want you to know that I'm going to go through all of these and make sure that the ones that are overlapping or that best describe the contiguous experience we've described here are in the core values. And Suzanne and Kate are going to feed this back to you, and we're going to continue to shape it and get more specific about it so it really feels like a brand or an identity for us moving forward. There'll probably need to be some other conversations about it, but we haven't figured out what those look like yet. So, anybody else have anything to say before I wrap with something?
I've got one. But places for people, for young professionals to work. We talked about
Co-working spaces.
We have
professional,
but not enough.
studios.
You're talking, what do you think?
Lawyers.
Get professional.
Office buildings, right?
What's going on during the weekdays?
Professional office buildings.
Okay.
Okay.
Just to tag on to that, I think micro enterprise bears revisiting, just and that's space for that, but that's also programs and services and incubation and et cetera, those types of tools and things. Because we really are, one of the unique things about this community that I've found is that, we joke about the pioneer spirit and about being a volunteer state and those kind of things, but it's really true. We like to start things. There's something about the people in this region, and so having a space or services or areas, et cetera, to allow for micro enterprise, startup, getting things started and off the ground, I think is important.
Lisa, from a next steps standpoint, I'm a little uncomfortable with the feeling that in the past, a lot of this type of thing has gone on, but then nothing has occurred. If there's any way to tightly define or tighter define a little bit more tightly, what is the vision of what's going to happen with this and the people in this room and how we're going to communicate and move forward.
Well, I think that's something that, Suzanne, you might have given more thought to that if you want to take a stab at it, or, you know, what I was, you know, a lot of times you need to, I personally, a day like this is a lot of work that produced. It's sort of like we need to bring it together, we need to integrate it, think about it, reflect on it a little bit more, feed it back to you all, and then come up with a proposal or a series of proposals of how it becomes live, how it goes live. And that's something that I would be interested in working. I'm going to spend some more time with Suzanne on that afterwards. I have some ideas, but I don't necessarily know that I can encase it in stone today. Can you?
Well, what's important is that we have Trey Benefield here, who was really, he came up with that master plan, and he said, well, I don't have any community input. Did I get it right? You know, what else is going on in this space? And basically, the downtown task force has told Phil Pinzola, you've got to get that first part done within a year, right? We want to see they've torn down that warehouse. We need a park there. Trey says what goes in that park, and I think you just told them this morning what goes into that park.
Yeah.
We also have Stephen Lee Johnson, who we're hiring to do our streetscape on Main Street, Market Street, in Buffalo. I think Stephen has heard from you what has to happen on those streets. They're wider for more pedestrian access, and everything that we do has to link together. And then we have Kurt, who's our engineer with AMEX, that's going to make these water features actually coincide with some of these visions. So, and Eric is putting it all together. And Ken is also consulting. Ken kind of brought us to this point. So to say what's happening next, it's going to happen with these ideas very, very shortly. We're going to see results. And what we wanted to do is make sure that that result keeps going for the next 5, 10, 20 years, so that we don't disconnect from the ideas that were brought.
There's cohesion, right, it holds together. It has integrity over time.
Exactly.
Right.
We got to believe.
And you got to believe. And you got to and dispel the negativity and take the old assumptions. This isn't going to happen. Write it down and put it next to it. I mean, it really is a power of positive thinking. I know that sounds annoying and common, but can you guys do me one last favor, because I do want to make sure you spend just a moment of time reflecting on what you just did, because we just spent 4 hours together in groups and together, and it's really good to look back on something and go, what did that mean? So on those little Post-it notes, which you guys should have, and you just need 3. Each person just needs 3. On one,